We're going to talk about scaling your sales divisions, recruiting, retention, systems, KPIs to track, early stage retention programs, all of the above. So it'll be one of the most cram-packed trainings you guys will see at the event. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So real quick, the premise of my talk today is going to be referencing a live project that we had with one of our clients at Shut the Fluff Up. It's going to be a case study on somebody that hired us to get one sales office to $1 million in revenue a month. We actually exceeded that goal and we got to 3.36 million in a month, but I'm going to talk about the trajectory and everything that happened up to that point and how all that went down. So by the end of this, you guys should learn how to find problems that you guys didn't know existed. I'm going to teach you guys how to make really good decisions with data, how to read data, how to predictably scale your teams so that you guys aren't just treading water. I know one of the biggest issues in solar and sales in general is retention and keeping guys through to getting their first paychecks. Sometimes with the installs that we have really far out, it's really easy for people to fall off and not see the light at the end of the tunnel, especially with some of the cancellation rates. So I want to talk about the most predictable ways for you guys to be able to scale your divisions, keep everybody, and actually grow. A lot of people can't grow, they just tread water and they'll replace the reps that they're losing. So real quick, to introduce myself, for those of you guys that know me, for those of you guys last year, we're at SolarCon 2, I was the guy on main stage that did the talk on artificial intelligence. Had a lot less hair back then, but that was me. And for those of you guys that don't know me at all, a little quick background on me. I started in alarms in 2006 and door-to-door. Started with a company called Apex before it was called Vivint. And got really good at recruiting. And that's kind of where a lot of you guys know me from that do know me. I found out that the way to get the positions that I wanted in the companies that I worked at was to hire a lot of people. And so right around 2008, 2010 is when I first started catching traction. But each year here is how many reps I signed, and you can tell in 2018, that's when I started running departments. So in 2018, I didn't sign 1,600 reps myself, my department did, but in 2016, that was personal. And then in 2018 was when I became a director and was running the recruiting department for a company called Legacy Power and then Vivint Solar. And that was a really good time for me. When I first got in the industry with Apex, it had been about a 15-year trajectory from me being a sales rep, leaving, growing into an actual hitter in the industry, and then getting my position running the recruiting department for Vivint in 2020. So I had to pinch myself because that was like, to me, that was like my dream job, being able to run the biggest recruiting department in the entire industry. So the last year that I was there, we signed 4,320 reps. Obviously that wasn't just me. I had 3 other directors underneath of me and then 5 other administrative recruiters that helped out. But over the course of my career, signed 18,000 reps and 3,600 personal. Since then, since COVID, because that's when I started getting into showing love to the rest of the industry, that's when we sold to Sunrun for $4.2 billion. After that, I became the president of DDD Experts. Some of you guys might know DDD Con. I was partnered with Sam Taggart over there. And then after that, created Shut the Fluff Up. You guys probably see our pink booth and all the girls and guns and stuff. That's us. And we also have the Sales Recruiting Academy that I'm going to talk about a little bit later. And am now wanting to share everything that I've learned over the years with you guys. I know a lot of people probably think of me as the king of recruiting, but I'd say I'm more of the king of the person who's seen the most shit in the industry. I've ran the biggest departments, I've ran the biggest setter closer models, seen hundreds of thousands of data points, and that's where I think I get my unique advantage to a lot of others, is because I was the executive behind the scenes that actually built all these departments, that worked with the executive council meetings and worked with HR and payroll to build these machines. And at Vivint, to give you guys a little bit of perspective, we had 128 managers and 64 offices. And so getting departments to run and work in sync when you have that many offices requires you to be able to make a lot of good decisions with data. So I've seen a lot of data, seen a lot of numbers, I've seen some of the best cultures, I've seen some of the craziest cultures. And so I want to show you guys some of the best ideas that I've learned over my time and share that stuff with you guys today. So the starting point with this case study that we're going to talk about starts off with one office. The situation was there was one sales manager and 4 setters. This is what we had to work with. Of those setters, There was only one that was really putting up some numbers. The other three were what I like to call oxygen thieves or payroll vampires. And the sales manager himself, he was a nice guy, wasn't a heavy knocker, but was really good at closing. They were doing about 9 installs a month as an organization. So if you guys do the math on that, the system size with this company was 8.8. That was about $272,000 a month in revenue. So the goal was to get it to 1 million. And again, we exceeded that by a lot, and I'm gonna show you guys how. We actually ended up achieving that, the benchmark that I'm talking about, in 4 months. So the starting point that they had was a 27% sit rate, 55% sign rate, and a 91% install rate. If you reverse engineer the math on that for you guys, that's 10 sales a month, 70 appointments. All right, so we're gonna look for the problems here. I'm gonna show you guys how to identify these problems and how to solve them in the sales pipeline and in the recruiting pipeline. So if you guys do the math on that, 70 appointments, 4 setters, that's 0.8 appointments a day. This is what the sales pipeline looks like. These are opportunities that you guys see up here on the board. Opportunities, appointments, sit, sale, M1, I know that could stand for permit, site audits, just getting things to install, and then the final metric is install. So 0.8 appointments a day with the 27% sit rate is 0.2 sits. So that was the average number of sits that our setters were getting every single day. That's not good, by the way. 55% sign rate, that was actually not bad. So we were happy with that. 55, I know that some of you guys probably have higher sign rates in there. Some have lower, but 55 was actually good. We were pretty happy with that. But that's 0.11 sales per day. And then they had a 91% install rate, which leads to a 0.1% install rate per setter per day. Now, if you guys do the math on that, 24 days a month, work days, 23 work days a month, that's about 2.3 installs a month that the setters were making. So I want to show you guys where the problems are here. So in this pipeline, and these pipelines, guys, are the best way to know how to work on your business. It's like working on a vehicle. All the answers to all the problems you have are all gonna be illustrated if you guys track your data. There's nothing more important than keeping track of all the things I'm about to show you guys. Oftentimes I see organizations that are struggling and they think the solution to their problems is just their sales reps having more passion, or they need to work harder, or they need to set goals and set bigger goals than they set. And oftentimes it has nothing to do with the major problems that they have. A lot of them have to do with these little things in between each one of these stages. The sales pipeline is very easy. So problems that you guys see here, number one is 0.8 appointments a day. Now that's a top of the funnel problem. If you're getting 0.8 sales a day because with your setters, that oftentimes has to do with the sense of urgency, the way that the meetings happen. Sometimes setters will have the meetings with the closers instead of having them on their own. So fixing that would be something like having daily meetings and having a lit group chat group and improving your sales culture. 27% sit rate, that one's really easy. That is sales training. And then 0.1 installs a day, that's a comp plan issue, right? And the reason why that's a comp plan issue is because with this group, they were paying their setters 50% of the deal up front. I know it's a pretty common pay plan, but if you guys are paying your setters 50%, the setters make more than the closers. The problem with that here is a setter, and not all setters, but most people in general will usually work until they cover their paychecks. They cover their bills and sales. They don't just work endlessly, right? That's the biggest problem that we have with our sales divisions, is that they don't just work all the hours of the day. They usually work until they've hit their income goals or they're feeling very comfortable, because knocking doors and getting rejected and selling over the phone is not fun. So as soon as you remove the stress of money, then you don't work as hard anymore. And the problem with this is they were getting 2.3 sales a month with 8.8 appointments a day. Multiply that by $3,000-ish per 50% sale for their commission. They're making $6,000 a month for 0.8 appointments a day. That's the problem. $6,000 a month is $72,000 a year. And for setters and guys that are in those positions, that's a good living, right? So if you're letting them make a good living on 0.8 appointments a day, the problem's the pay scale. Now, you can still allow them to make up to 50% if that's your prerogative, but my advice is to pay a smaller amount up front so that their activity is still really aggressive and they're moving fast, and then have volume metrics or pay scale bonuses, maybe quarterly bonuses, which is what we did here, to make them scratch and claw and fight to get more volume. A quarterly bonus can also increase the retention of your reps, because there's always this bonus lingering out at the end of the quarter, right? So paying attention to your comp plan will actually change the way that the reps move. A lot of times people think they just need to pay their guys more to motivate them more. That is not the case. A lot of you guys that have been in solar for a long time know that the comp plans are like triple what they were back in like 2017, right? But the sales have actually gone down by about 2/3, right? They didn't go up, but it's not that selling solar didn't get harder. It's because people were making too much money on their deals, right? So I'm going to talk about some of the specifics of this stuff in a second, but I want to move into the recruiting pipeline because this is one of the most important ones that people struggle with. I'm going to talk about all the problems they have with their recruiting pipeline. So here was the starting situation. They had $4,500 a month going out on ads, and they were only getting about 2 to 3 recruits per month with that budget. They were getting about 10 resumes a day, and of those 10 resumes, they said that they would get about 1/3 to respond. Another thing that they said was only about 1 of the 5 people that they interviewed wanted to do the job. All right, that phrase makes me cringe sometimes too, because if they want to do the job, that insinuates that they felt like it was up to them whether or not they got the job. And a lot of times the way people interview is the opposite of how you should interview in a recruiting session. Because we have a lot of our sales managers doing the interviewing process and the recruiting process, they approach it like sales. But in a normal company, you have HR doing interviews. You don't have sales guys doing interviews. And it's a different kind of a vibe when it's being done the right way. So a lot of times managers will just throw themselves at their interviewees that are sending in resumes and tell them how much money they're gonna make and how awesome the company is and how if they just give it a shot, they're gonna make a ton of money. And they don't realize they're talking them out of the job. And we're gonna get some specifics on that in a second. Now after day 1, they said they only had about 50% of the reps there after day 1. So there's a really heavy drop-off rate because they didn't have any training programs, early stage retention programs, scavenger hunts, new hire surveys, new stage incentive programs. They just had a guy on a whiteboard, right? And when you're starting and you're new at a company and you don't know what's going on, you don't know anything about the industry, walking into something like that where it's just a guy on a whiteboard, especially if they've had a crappy sales job before, is gonna give them PTSD to like their Cutco knives or Kirby vacuum days. So you gotta be careful with that and how you show up. And then of those people that made it past day 1, only 1/3 of those got to a sale. And that is heartbreaking because when somebody starts a job, having more than half of the people not make it to a sale, that breaks my heart. That should not happen. But a lot of people, it's hard for them to stomach our industry because of the way that commissions work. It's not like we're selling pest control or fiber where you get a sale every time you sneeze. It takes a lot to learn how to do a solar sale. And so it's really important that we have early stage retention programs like mentor programs and scavenger hunts that help rep people to their first sale, because no recruit matters until they get their first sale. If they don't sell, they're not helpful, right? If I sign 100 reps in a month and none of them get to a sale, I might as well just punch myself in the face 100 times because that's how helpful I was. I didn't do anything. All I did was waste a bunch of time. So it is so important that they get to their first sale. And there's a lot of ways you can help them do that. So let's talk about this. So this is that pipeline actually realized out. 100 solid resumes, so they're getting 200 resumes in from Indeed, which was also one of the problems. They're only using one source of getting resumes. And this is what it turns into. 30% were responding, 30 interviews, 20% were wanting to do the job, and so forth. So this is what that pipeline looks like, right? These are where all the problems are. There's 6 problems here, and I'm gonna talk about how to solve these problems because these are really, really common problems that people have. And what's crazy is the solutions to these problems are a lot more simple than you think. And if you just improve any of these metrics by double, for example, if you get more than half of the resumes to respond just because you called them a little bit faster, means you just doubled your recruiting pipeline. There's a freaking holocaust of drop-off for not handling these conversion rates the right way. So first problem they had was they only had one source of recruits coming in. So the top of a recruiting funnel looks like this, everybody. There's targeted ads, headhunting, inbound ads, events and fairs, and networking. Targeted ads is like Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, where you can actually put in things about the audience that you want to target. You can put certain age metrics, you can put gender things, you can put all sorts of stuff because they're ads. It's not like LinkedIn or ZipRecruiter or whatever. These are actual ads, so you're actually able to put all sorts of weird things in there and target your audience. You can put the names of companies or your competitors or industries so that the ads that you're pushing are going to go to specific people. Headhunting. This is flying in experienced reps to your corporate office to close them down. This is social media headhunting or having your reps leveraging their networks and doing things like bench lists and having them recruit their personal networks. Inbound ads are like Indeed, ZipRecruiter, Craigslist. I don't need to say anything about those. All of you guys probably start with those. Those are the most common. Events and fairs. You can sponsor a fraternity. You can go to a fraternity and pay them $5,000 to talk to all of them and have them represent your company, give them a bunch of gear, take a cool group picture, and you will make that $5,000 back the second you meet with the whole fraternity to tell them about your company so they know how to talk about your business. It is the, I'm getting a little bit nervous saying that to a room like this because there's only so many fraternities. Every major university usually has about less than 10, so we can't saturate this, but fraternity sponsorships is one of the biggest cheat codes, glitches in the matrix that exists in recruiting. Give back events, that's gonna be like charity events. You know, you feed the homeless, you do something around Christmas to give back. We feed the homeless one time, and then another big one that we did was there was the Christmas angel trees in the malls where they have the ornaments, and there's a kid on there and there's the presents for each of the kids. We had a sales team go in there, pull all the ornaments off all the trees, went through the mall, bought every single kid all the presents that were on the angel things, and it was great with all the group photos and people that were crying at Salvation Army. And the only barrier of entry to join that event was to bring a friend. So we showed up with 40 sales reps. We had 40 friends that showed up, a little bit more than that actually. We got a ton of recruits just buying presents for kids. And then there's also team activities, like doing, like a barbecue or a paintball war or something like that. I love throwing paintball wars or fun activities and then making the barrier of entry for my sales team to come to just bring a friend. So if you have 30 people on your sales team and you do a paintball war and all they have to do is bring a friend to show up to the paintball war, you're gonna have a bunch of buddies there. They're gonna think your company's the coolest company. So events and fairs, and then the last pillar is gonna be social media networking, public events. This will be like campus blitzes. Campus blitzes is one of the best ways to recruit if you're gonna be beefing up a sales team before the summer. And then also communities like the one we're in, SolarCon, conferences, etc. Right? The problem was that they were only using inbound ads with Indeed. Next problem, they had poor ad management. $4,500 a month on ads is not good with the number of resumes they were getting. They had a cost per applicant of $12.5. You should be getting a cost per applicant of about $5 or less on your job ads. You also want to make sure that you're adjusting them properly. I'll talk about that in just a second. There's a slide for that. They also were only contacting the resumes once a week. This is a massive, massive freaking problem. You guys got to pay attention to this one. If you are letting your resumes bake for longer than 24 hours, you're going to lose about half your candidates, right? Especially in sales positions. When sales reps are applying for jobs, they're going to apply to 3 or 4 or 5 other jobs that they're excited about, and they're going to hear back from them the first day. So resumes do not age like wine. If you wait 2 days to call your resumes, like you just call them on Tuesdays or Thursdays, you're gonna lose about 66% of them. That is a freaking holocaust of drop off on your recruiting pipeline. So you wanna call them as soon as they come in. I also see people automatically scheduling or letting the candidate automatically schedule their appointment with things like Calendly. Horrible, right? So number 4, they were talking people out of the job. The way that they were interviewing was absolutely horrible, the way that I was talking about where you're approaching it like sales. I'm gonna talk about the solution to this in a second. I'm just listing out the problems. I'm gonna talk about the solutions in a couple more slides. Number 5, they were doing self-onboarding. This is one of the biggest, most massive mistakes that I see everybody do. They will offer the job to the candidate, say, congratulations, you got the job over the phone, and then they'll say, so now what we're gonna do is send you your new hire paperwork, and as long as you fill this out before Monday, which is gonna be your first day, then we're all good, but I just need you to fill out your tax information. Massive problem when they self-onboard because they're gonna hang up the phone and they're gonna be confused and they're gonna start reading everything in the new hire packet that you guys have, and anything written by an attorney is scary. They're just gonna be there by themselves in their bed at midnight, reading the non-compete, non-solicit, non-recruit. They're gonna look at a copy of their comp plan that might be a vanilla version of their comp plan, and it might as well be Chinese. They don't know what red lines are, sun hours, kilowatts, they don't know any of that stuff. So they're only gonna be confused and be okay with it, or they're gonna be confused and frustrated. It can only be neutral or bad. It'll never be positive. They're never gonna be confused and be excited that they're confused. So it's always better when you go over the comp plan with them in an in-person onboarding session. I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that solution in a second because I'm just talking about problems, right? And low sign to sale. This is a massive one when you guys don't have a training agenda that is well put together. Oftentimes I see reps that are meeting their managers sometimes for the first time, and the person that interviewed them isn't involved in any of their training. They don't know who the person is. They feel like a fish out of water. They show up to the first day wearing a suit and they see everyone doing push-ups in the sales meeting and they feel like an idiot. And they're like, what the hell, dude, what's going on here? And then You walk up to the recruit and you say, oh no, sorry about that. Do you have anything else to wear? And they've just got a wrinkled shirt in their car, and that's not gonna work. So what do? You walk in the back and you hand them a double XL shirt and you said, this is all we have, just go ahead and put this on today and we'll order you another one. And of course they're gonna quit. Of course they're gonna quit. So sign to sale, that's one of the biggest ones, guys. These guys aren't, I see a lot of people treating recruits like they're trying to weed people out. They'll see who's taking this serious and who's not taking this serious. That is such a lazy way to approach this. We are there, our job for the first couple weeks is to show them that they made a good decision about where they work. They're not proving anything to us, especially on a straight commission comp plan. That's not how good sales reps are gonna think. So, first problem and the solutions. Number one, they only had one source of recruits. Our solution is we did a give back program to feed the homeless, like I was talking about. We sponsored a fraternity, we did targeted ads on TikTok, and we leveraged the team's networks and we did a bench list. We had recruits coming from 4 more angles, and we ended up increasing our top of the funnel with recruits by 100% through all these methods, and these were way more solid recruits than before. So what happened is we ended up getting the same amount of interviews going through, but we were allowed to be way more picky than we were before. Before, when we were just recruiting off of Indeed, you kind of had to, be okay with a couple knuckleheads and stuff here and there because you don't have a ton of options, right? All you know about inbound job ads is that it didn't work out at their last job. That's it. You don't know anything else about them. So they're not always home runs. It's always better to have people that are doing well at jobs and are successful. They're going to be a lot more solid and be a lot stickier in your organization. So you want to find people who are already seeing success in places, not just failing. All right, number 2, poor ad management. Cost per applicant was really low. What we ended up doing was hiring an admin recruiter for $4,000 a month. It was almost the same that we were spending on our job ads, but now we have a full-time dedicated human being spending 8 hours a day managing the job ads, making sure that we're getting a good return on our investment, on how much we're spending on that. They're managing everyone through the pipelines, and we're getting way more juice for the squeeze with that money that we're spending. We ended up saving almost as much as their salary cost. All right, and if you have a full-time recruiting admin, at the very least every single month, you'll sign 20 reps if they're doing half of what they're supposed to. So I always have an admin recruiter on hand. You can use them for fulfillment, getting badges, sending out logins for everybody, getting people's shirts done, checking in with everybody, making sure everything's good. They can do a lot of stuff for the company, and they always pay for themselves. When you have somebody completely dedicated to recruiting, it's like having somebody dedicated to sales. They're gonna make money because of their existence, and if they're gonna spend an entire month dedicating 8 hours a day to it, they're gonna sign way more recruits than you would have otherwise trying to have your manager take it, because your manager's busy selling, knocking doors, having people shadow him. So an admin recruiter always pays for themselves. And then, simple enough, we just contacted Indeed and had them tweak the ad, drop their cost per applicant all the way down to $3. All right, next problem. Resumes are getting called once a week, and they're being auto-scheduled by Calendly. Really easy solution. Call them as soon as they come in. As soon as you get a resume, call it the second it comes in, and do not use Calendly. Call them twice from a phone. Leave a text message from your personal number. Make it very obvious that you're a human getting in touch with them. It's very important that we have that human connection with them so they feel a sense of social pressure to not embarrass themselves in front of us and let us down. Human and connection is so important with recruiting. Recruiting is like sales. You do not want this to be automated. You can automate things in other industries, but not sales. Sales, it's all about speed to contact. All right, so when we changed those things, we saw an increase by 29% from screening to interview. That doubled the number of recruits that we had going through our pipeline, and the recruits were way more solid because we added the extra sources with the give back program and the targeted ads. So these were not only do we get double the recruits going through the pipeline so far, they're way more solid than the previous group that we're getting from just Indeed. All right. Problem number 4, they were talking people out of the job. Interview training is one of the most important things to do with your managers. Anything that you do in sales is the opposite is what you're supposed to do in recruiting. A lot of times sales guys will think all they need to do is transfer their passion to the person that they're interviewing. I can't tell you how big of a mistake that is. The last thing you want to do is throw yourself at somebody you're interviewing and make it really clear to them that it's up to them whether or not they get the job. Because if they know that it's up to them whether or not they get the job, then the positioning of authority becomes reversed in the interview, and then they feel like they're interviewing you. And that's when all the stupid questions come up. That's when they start asking questions like, well, what's the turnover rate? Do a lot of people quit? Well, what happens if I'm the worst person in the whole company and I don't make anything? You're telling me there's no salary, I don't make any money if I don't sell anything? Right? And the problem is the sales leader usually responds to that and says, oh no, that's okay if you've never done this before. There was a guy that started doing this last month who was just making $15,000. He was just waiting tables and he'd never done this before. And he made $15,000 his first month. So this is just a good opportunity for anyone that wants to make a lot of money. You don't know why it's weird, they don't know why it's weird, but I'm giving you guys the words to tell you why it's weird. It just got weird because the psychological position got reversed. The candidate can tell it's up to them whether or not they got the job because they just exhibited weakness and fear, and the manager tried to overcome that fear and like an objection, right? But if you think about that, if that question were to get asked in any normal interview in the world, whether you worked at Google, Intel, Microsoft, the CIA, McDonald's, I don't care where, if you ask a question like that, you are instantly disqualified from the job. Right, because confidence is the first prerequisite to every job. Everybody knows when you go into an interview, your job is to tell the company why you're the best fit for the job and why they should pick you. And it starts to feel really weird when they're doing it, when they're the ones trying to sell you and the roles are reversed, right? That's like trying to get a job as a surgeon and you ask the person interviewing you, so what happens if everyone that I do surgery on dies and I'm the worst surgeon in the whole hospital? Do I still make money if everyone dies that I do surgery on? Or what happens if I'm the worst astronaut and I don't get on the spaceship? Do I still make money if I don't get on the spaceship? Any normal person would look at them and ask, what the hell did you just say? Why would you say that? It would be so crazy that they said that you would probably fear for your safety because for sure they're on drugs. For sure, right? At least that's the conclusion I would draw, right? So you have to make sure that you are making them fight for the job. There's a lot of ways you can talk about pay that will make them come at you. I'll give you one quick example. If you're gonna talk about compensation, one of the things that pisses me off the most about the industry is how much it pays. I know that sounds weird, but the higher the pay scales have gone, the lower the sales are that my offices are doing, right? So as the comp plans have gone up in the industry, the sales averages go down, and I say that in the interview. I say that the industry's gotten a lot more efficient with installs and equipment, et cetera. And the more margin that the companies are earning, it's not going to the company, it's going to the sales reps. The red lines are going lower and lower and lower, and now people are making a whole month's worth of income in one sale. And that's a huge problem, and I say that in the interview. They might think it's a good problem to have, but I say the problem in our industry is that when people are covering their income goals with one sale a month, the sense of urgency diminishes rapidly after that. And if you come in and your goal is to make $120,000 a year, and you're hitting that with 2 sales a month, well, good for you, but if you're doing 2 sales a month in one of our offices, you're the worst person on the whole team and you're bringing everybody down and you gotta get the hell out. You can't come here, just make $6,000 a month and do 1 sale or 2 sales a month to make your 100K. If you're coming in and doing 2 sales a month, you're on the chopping block, right? So I'll ask them how they would feel transitioning into an environment from their previous job to be in a situation where there's a lot of pressure to make sure that they're not kicking their feet up and getting lazy. I'll say that we deliberately look for managers, people who are managers at their last jobs or top performers, because top performers and managers, they're not the kind of people we have to worry about. We don't have to cattle prod them. They usually don't have an off switch. So I'll ask them, so how do you think you're transitioning into an environment like this? Does what I'm talking about give you anxiety? You know, do you feel like it'd be hard for you to hang with the rest of the team? And I don't know if you guys can tell psychologically what I just did there, but the only appropriate response to what I just said is, Brandon, I promise you, I am not a liability. I'm not just coming here to cover my bills. I'm not going to bring the average down. I was poor growing up, and I'm a redhead, and I used to have to roof in July. I have to take care of my mom. Whatever, they're going to tell you a million different ways that they're not going to be the kind of person that's just going to stop at 2. And they're going to tell you how much money they're going to make. Right? Very different. And when they tell you, don't worry, I'm not going to stop at 2 installs a month, or I'm not going to stop at 100K or whatever, guess what? Should they be concerned about a salary anymore? No, because they know that they need to tell you that they're not going to stop at that number. But when you tell them, what people usually do in interviews, they say, dude, if you knock this many doors, if you get this many sales, you can make this much money. You're throwing yourselves at them, and then what kind of response do you get when you say it that way? Well, I'm sure not everyone makes $250,000 a year. I'm sure not everyone makes $500,000 a year. I'm sure that that's just probably the top people in the company. What can I expect to make? Right? Now they're skeptical of what you're saying, because the position of authority just got reversed, and that's why they ask those questions, because you're throwing yourselves at them. So interview mastery is really important to learn how to keep that psychological position the entire time. That is how you're going to keep people that turn into managers one day. Because the people that you talk out of interviews because you're throwing yourselves at them are the ones that have options. They're the ones that can get whatever sales job they want. They're the ones that have wives and kids. They're the ones that are top performers. The ones that have standards for themselves are going to be the ones that don't put up with bullshit during the interview process. So first impressions are huge. Make it very clear that they're the ones that are seeking your approval, and make them fight for the job. you'll have much higher retention and you'll have a lot better candidates in your pool, right? Number 5, self-onboarding. We talked about this. This is one of the biggest mistakes that I see at Vivint the last year that I was there. We lost 1,600 reps between us after they accepted the verbal job offer and we sent them the paperwork, from created offer to completed offer, where they completed the paperwork. We lost 29% of our recruits between sent paperwork and them filling it out, because we let them fill it out at their house. So guess what fixed that? We started onboarding them in person like a normal company. We sat down with them, we told them what days they get paid, we told them what the dress code was, we told them what the meeting times were and how to calculate their comp plan. And when you go over that stuff with them, guess how excited they are? That is everything they want to know. They get so excited because those are all the questions they have. But when you call somebody and you offer them the job over the phone and you say, hey, congratulations, you got the job, I'm gonna send you the paperwork, we'll see you on Monday. The second you hang up, they're gonna start thinking, crap, I don't even know if I want to do this yet. I don't even know when I get paid. I mean, I know that they said you make this amount of money during an install roughly, but I want to see it written down someplace. So sitting down with them, going over everything in person is going to have the same psychological effect that you would have if you went to go buy a car at a car dealership. How many of you guys have bought a car at a car dealership before? Okay, and you guys sit down with the finance guy afterwards, right? They put you in a room and you're sitting with this person and you fill out packet after packet after packet after packet and you do it in 10 minutes, right? Why? Because the person's sitting right in front of you and it'd be socially awkward if you sat there and read everything for 4 hours, right? So you fill everything out really fast. They say, this is your payment, this is your term, sign here. This is for the warranty that we just talked about, go ahead and sign here. And you fly through the paperwork. And guess what? When you do the paperwork with the reps in person, they fly through it too. We also implemented an in-person onboarding checklist. We had a checklist with 10 things on it, and it went through everything that they want to know. We have this stuff, we have documents for this stuff I can share with you guys afterwards, but I'd have them initial everything before I'd go over the paperwork. Number 1 would be dress code. Number 2 is meeting times, addresses, and phone numbers for the managers. Number 3 is what days they get paid. Number 4 is the actual comp plan itself and the office rules. And when you go over all that stuff with them and that checklist before you do the paperwork, they don't read the paperwork anymore. The only reason why they sit there and go through the paperwork with you guys in front of you guys is because they're trying to figure out what their life is going to be like working for you, right? They don't actually care about reading all the legal stuff. They just don't know anything. And so you guys probably had that happen before. Someone's reading the paperwork in front of you and they're like, is it okay if I read this? And you're like, all right, you freaking weirdo, sure, yeah, go ahead and read the fine print in our 1099 in our rep agreement, right? But if you go over that checklist with them beforehand, nobody reads the paperwork, they don't care because you just told them everything they want to know, right? And it's also really important before they start during onboarding to meet the team they're going to be working with. You do not, I repeat, this is so important, you do not want to have a recruiting team or management that is not going to be actively managing the rep to do all of the interview process and onboarding process. If they're going to be meeting their managers, their team members for the first time in the training, you're going to have such high turnover rate because there is no emotional connection. You need to recreate that emotional connection with them so they have a sense of obligation to not let you down because of social pressure. If you do a good job interviewing somebody, they're going to be thankful for you because you helped them get the job, and they're not going to want to let you down, especially if you have high expectations for them. So you want to meet with them in person, whoever did the interview to do the onboarding, and whoever's going to be training them needs to be involved with that process. Otherwise, you're going to lose literally more than half your candidates just because of that. 2016, I had a really tough year. I owned an alarm company called Smart Home. I was the CEO of the company, and I did every single interview for the company because I didn't trust my managers. I worked with an admin recruiter that put everything in my calendar, and I signed 50 people a month. 50 every single Monday, me and my admin recruiter. And by Wednesday, after they would start, there'd be, out of freaking 15 people, there'd be 3 left on Wednesday. And I'd be like, what the hell is going on? And it took me almost a year of losing almost everybody to realize if people are meeting the manager for the first time and the manager's meeting them for the first time, it is so easy for them to quit the first day. There's no emotional connection. The manager doesn't know why I hired some people. They might be standing in front of a conference room with 15 people and be looking at it and be like, why the hell did Brandon give me this guy? This guy looks like he's never had a girlfriend before. This guy's weird. This guy's really quiet. And they start judging people and not know why we hired them. So it's really important that they're involved in the process. So once we made those tweaks, we were keeping from 20 to 62% of the candidates that we wanted in the interview process. And that's real, guys. Anyone that comes in, I don't care what they say, if someone comes into an interview with me, and even if they said, you know what, really quick, before we get started, I just want to let you know if this is straight commission to door, I'm not doing it. I don't care. By the end of the interview, I'll have them eating out of my hand. A lot of times, people don't realize that there's a lot of predispositions about door-to-door straight commissions that aren't accurate, and you just need at least 15, 20 minutes of time to build up the respect and enthusiasm before you go into some of the tough stuff. If you ask somebody, are you interested in doing a straight commission job or door to door, and they have no other information, then of course they'd be more interested in a job that has a salary if they had no information, right? So that's a silly way to approach that. If you lead in with the interview and say that, I see a lot of people do this and it drives me crazy. They'll start the interview off with saying a straight commission or whatever they feel like is the negative thing and ask the candidate if they're okay with that. Boom, you just lost 80% of your candidates by doing that. Right, you think you're being upfront with them. No, it's really important that you build up their respect and enthusiasm for the position. If somebody is in an interview with me for 20 minutes, they're not too cool for anything anymore. All of a sudden, they're gonna be like, holy crap, dude, there's a bunch of guys like this that work here? Wow, I could actually learn a lot from these guys. I can tell they've got a lot of good things going on, right? And you need to build that, and you need time to build that because they're meeting you for the first time. Right, so we had 62% make it to accepting their job offer. So we had 36 reps accepting a job offer with the company. And then from job offer to onboarding, instead of having this freaking crazy drop-off rate, we had an actual onboarding meeting. So we created a new meeting. See how this was getting skipped before? They weren't doing an onboarding meeting because they're just sending the paperwork. We created a new meeting where we had onboard them in person. You have to meet with them once before they start. I repeat, you have to meet with them once before they start. You cannot interview them, offer them the job, and have their first day be the first day that they learn anything else. You have to meet with them once before they start. Last but not least, we had a really low sign to sale rate. So we implemented 3 early stage retention programs. A scavenger hunt, which is a really cool game that I invented where we'd have guys go out and play a game in the field to get them used to knocking. One of the reasons why the Utah community is so good at knocking doors is because they get to practice serving a mission. And I've always tried to figure out how do I replicate that with people that haven't served a mission. I came up with the scavenger hunt. I don't know if you guys have ever played that game before. It's what girls play at slumber parties or when you're young and stuff, and there's a piece of paper and there's a bunch of things on it like a toothbrush and whatever, and you go and try to get everything checked off the boxes from all the neighbors, and whoever can finish the list wins. When you make that list, you put stuff on it like a bottle of water or a selfie with a pet, but only cute ones in parentheses, or and a VHS tape or a floppy disk, and then a free solar design or a free system design or where they set an appointment or a high electric bill. And then you teach them to go out and use that to get a crap ton of appointments. It's gonna be the easiest appointment they ever got in their lives. They're gonna go up to their house and say, hey, how's it going? Hi, I'm doing a scavenger hunt. I don't know if you can help me getting any of this stuff. Homeowner grabs a paper and is like, oh cool, yeah, I got a bottle of water. And they're like, cool, yeah, I just started a new job. And they're just having us play a game today. And they say, oh cool, 100% of the time, they say, cool, where'd you get a job at? Because they're not scared of you anymore because you don't sound like a salesperson. And they say, oh, I got a job at a solar company. I'm gonna be one of the guys that picks out homes that look like they're a good fit. And then I do designs for them and try to save people money, so. And then the homeowner is not scared of them anymore, right? Because they just said it's their first day and they're playing a game. And so usually there's always gonna be a follow-up conversation about solar, and they're gonna say, oh cool, I've never heard of you guys before, or I have heard of you guys before. You guys are the ones that set up all the neighbors. Or yeah, a solar company came and talked to me 6 months ago, but they never called me back. Do you guys do PPAs? And the rep's just supposed to be like, I don't know, it's my first day. But I can find out for you and come back. I don't know if you can help me out with number 6, but I have to do a design for somebody. Is it okay for my first appointment and I practice on you? I'm like, sure, how long is it gonna take? And it's the easiest appointment you're ever gonna get in your life, right? And then you teach them to be smart and take that appointment and then hide it in the back pocket and have 10 more printed copies of that scavenger hunt, whip out another one, cross off 8 of the things on it, and then option close the appointment on the next house. Do you have a VHS tape, or is it okay if I practice on you? I just skipped a lot of stuff, but boom, you're gonna have guys on their first day getting 5 to 10 appointments their first day, just laughing, thinking they just won the lottery because they got the easiest job in the world. That is one of the best ways to get people used to knocking. Scavenger hunt. We also implemented a training development incentive program where we release bonuses and cruises and stuff for them, depending on how well they do over the first couple months. We also did a new hire survey and a mentor program. A new hire survey was just a survey we sent reps at the end of their 2nd or 3rd week, asking them to rate their managers like their Uber drivers.
I want to miss the big stage in 5 minutes. I love you guys. We're about to kick some ass in a second. Let's go.
All right. So new hire survey, it's a really easy thing to implement, but we got the feedback from the reps to find out what they liked about the managers and what they didn't like about the managers. And it's crazy. A lot of the managers are gonna tell you, oh, this guy didn't work out because he wasn't motivated. Or this guy didn't work out because he was just a sissy, was never gonna work. They chose not to show up, right? So the new hire survey fished out a bunch of stuff, and we found out from all these reps that their manager never called them back. They're supposed to shadow somebody. The person that was supposed to shadow them never texted them back. They don't have a shirt still. It's the end of the 2nd week. We found out that we were messing up. And guys, when somebody quits, as much as we don't like to admit it, usually when they leave, it's obviously because they decided it wasn't a good situation for them. But we always say, oh, that wasn't gonna work out. They decided that they didn't want to do it anymore. That's a reflection of how they feel about the opportunity. If they were in front of a manager that was selling enough to make it 7 figures and they were part of a great culture, and people don't quit those kinds of jobs, right? So there's obviously a big reason why people are making these decisions. So we're almost done here wrapping this up. But at the very end of the day, once we implemented the scavenger hunt, new hire program, our new hire survey, and early stage incentive program, we got to 47% made it to their first sale, right? That's massive. 47% made it to their first sale. So now at the end of the month, we had 12 people getting to their first sale. After that, 50% make it to their fifth. That's a pretty common metric. And once people get to their fifth sale, once people get to their first sale, or when they get to their first sale, the average length of time they stay for the company is 2 months, because they have to wait for their install pay. But if they make it to 5, the average length of time they stay at the company is 13.2 months. This is real data. And so the target KPI metrics that you guys want to shoot for is 50%. You want to get 50% of your reps to their first sale and 50% to their fifth sale. So out of 4 people that start, you want at least 1 of them at the end of the day making it to their fifth sale. All right, so here's the different pipelines now compared and contrast after we made those tweaks. All right, look at the difference in the end. We have 1 person getting to a sale with the old pipeline and 12 people making it to a sale with the new pipeline, and these guys were way more solid than the ones before. And again, about 6 of those would end up making it to their fifth sale. Now this was the sales pipeline. Remember the sales pipeline we had earlier? We made a couple tweaks. We had our sit rate. It didn't even go up that much. It went up 11%. All right. Our top of the funnel went up quite a bit though because of the changes we made to the culture with the group chats and the way that we changed the meetings and sales training. And then it's funny, but the actual sign rate went down by 4% because the manager that was there in the beginning got really busy. We had more closers and they weren't closing as good as the manager, but still we ended up going up by 350%-ish on our rep volume. So when you combine those together, it is freaking deadly what the numbers end up being at the end of the day, guys. After all was said and done, month 1, we had 5 reps, 4 setters, 1 closer, and 9 installs. After month 5, so we had all this prep for month 4, month 5, after everything ticked, we had 26 reps. And actually, guys, we signed a lot more than 26 reps, but a lot of them, like I was saying, drop off. It was 26 that got paychecks. That's after all the fall off, when I'm saying 50% make it to the first sale and 50% make it to the fifth, so 75% of the people don't make it to the fifth sale. These 26 reps are all people that have been around for a couple months because everything had time to bake. So the math on that, guys, that's $270,000 in revenue after 120 days. Into the 5th month, we had $3.3 million in revenue. So after that, so manager overrides. We had $100 a kilowatt going to the manager's overrides. Manager override check goes from $8,000. Our manager is now making $117,000 a month. That's a really happy manager. Now that all didn't go to the manager, we ended up having to get another manager, so they're carving that up. But that is the difference in a 4-month period just by changing the dials in our systems. So a lot of misconceptions that people think recruiting is, in which it's not. It is not just calling your friends, as you guys can see. Calling your friends is important, but that is not the solution to all of your recruiting problems. It is not really low red lines. It's not a race to the bottom. That is not a way to recruit, right? It is not group interviews. If anyone's telling you to do group interviews, take them to the hospital because something might be wrong with their head. It is also not having really big dreams and setting goals that are bigger than your goals. And it is not getting yelled at like a drill sergeant and to have a 6-pack and set bigger goals. If you get, all that's gonna do is help you with your top of the funnel. Getting yelled at, passion, whatever, all the sales training in the world, all the door pitches you can teach anybody is only gonna help you right here. It is not gonna help you with all this stuff that we just talked about. Actually scaling a business and a sales division is learning how to adjust all these knobs here and make improvements and listen to the noises your engine's making. All right, guys, and if you guys haven't figured it out yet, that's why we're called Shut the Fluff Up. I used to cringe when I'd see all the rounded off edges and all the sales training and stuff that's out there, people just telling you to set goals and whatnot. It is actually the calculus stuff that helps everyone get better. So, how to get more of this, guys, really quick. We are just unloaded a massive video library for the first time. Everything that, and when it comes to campus blitzes, recruiting divisions, recruiting departments, setter closer models, compensation plans, KPI targets, anything that has to do with recruiting. We have hundreds and hundreds of hours or hundreds of videos of content in the Sales Recruiting Academy. We just released this. Everyone's been bugging us for this for a long time, but a lot of the stuff we did was always private consulting with DDD experts and DDD Con. So I'm going to save a bunch of time because I know that we're over, but we're throwing in a ton of cool stuff. We're throwing in a free ticket to our recruiting boot camp in June. If you guys are picking this up, it's valued at $1,000. We're doing a 2-day, fully immersed boot camp in June to teach you guys how to in a much deeper depth, because I know that we sped through a lot of that stuff. And then we're also going to be throwing in a free strategy session with me, so I'll be getting on the phone live with you guys and helping you guys come up with solutions for your guys' business. Give you guys copies of documents for the new hire checklist, scavenger hunt blueprint, Campus Blitz recruiting checklist. We just did a Campus Blitz recruiting training a couple weeks ago, and we had all of our just absolutely crushing it. We got so much good feedback from everyone that was doing Campus Blitzes right now. Right now is the perfect time to do a Campus Blitz, guys. It's the end of April. Yeah, it's mid-April, end of April. Classes are going to people are going to graduate in a month. Right now is when you want to do a Campus Blitz. So everything that we're throwing in, it's worth $10,000 that we're normally charging. Because we're releasing it for the first time and you guys are here for it at SolarCon, we're pretty much doing it for free. It's $1,000. So I love you guys. I really appreciate you. Thanks for coming in. Our booth is right next. If you guys have any questions, if you guys want to catch a call with me, right over here on the left, right on the other side. All right. Love you guys. Appreciate it.
Hey.
Yep, got you. How far over did I go?
Good job, bro.
Oh, really? I was just trying to fly.
Good
Thanks.
session, man.
I appreciate it. Thanks, man.
I get to introduce myself to you. I'm Melissa's brother, Sean.
Oh, hey, how's it going, brother?
Nice to meet you.